Good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation, Better Together, School, Family, and Community Partnerships. My name is Angela White, and I am a teacher in Sumner County.
I'm Lindsey Ellis, and I'm also a teacher in Sumner County. And just out of curiosity, any other Sumner County people in here? All right, great. We're going to get rolling here. There's some seats up front for those that are still coming in.
So I work at Dr. William Burrus Elementary, which until recently we were the newest school in our district. We are a suburban school right in the heart of Hendersonville.
I teach at Portland Gateview Elementary. We come from a bit of a rural aspect and perspective. We're located in Portland, Tennessee. And just to give you a little background, when I say rural, one of our problems this morning was we had cows loose in our school parking lot. Real world problems here that kids can help solve. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes.
So we came together last summer. There's a big district-wide initiative that is an ROC vision, so relevant and ongoing and collaborative. So Lindsey attended a summer showcase that I held at Burrus last year. And so since then, we've just kind of teamed up to partner together and learn from one another. We are a designated STEM school, and Lindsey?
Yeah, we've spent the last year or two working towards that at Portland Gateview, so there were lots of things that we could take that Burrus does well and kind of make them our own with who we are as a school and our community.
So our objective of today's lesson is to help you better do justice, engage students and families, and build community partnerships to provide authentic learning opportunities for students.
I think I saw a couple real collaborative people in here from TSIN. I'm going to talk for a minute about a book that we did as a group called The Power of Place. Just a little idea, if you have a faculty that you're trying to build some ownership with to the importance of developing community partnerships, this is a great book study. It talks about the power of place, and I'm not going to read this to you. I just want you to take a second to read this quote that came directly from the book. And that's exactly connected to our objective, is how we can work together to make sure that equity is for all students, no matter rural, suburban, urban, and making sure that we're giving all students of those locations community connections. And the classroom is not just defined as 4 block walls. That takes it down and brings people in, and also our students out into the community as well.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of bounce back and forth. I think that is so important in today's world. It doesn't matter where you are. We're getting students from all over the world, California in particular, but I think this really resonated with me. So I've done some research on my own, and I'm looking at a book study as well. It's really good.
It's a video clip. Nothing? Okay.
I'll just talk about it. This is a guy that I actually grew up with, who is a parent at our school and a businessman in Nashville. He has students in the Sumner County School District, and he basically just speaks to the importance of the community getting behind schools and supporting students across the board, not just his kids, not just students in our school, in our district, but everybody in the community to provide equal access. He is a wonderful man, and so I love that he kind of took that and is shared an investment with schools and our mission.
He's connected to BizTown, right? Yes. Any schools in here take students to BizTown or do something like that? So there's an automatic connection right there, somebody that you can bring into your school and also give your students that experience outside as well.
Yeah, he's the COO of RJ Young, so he's willing to support in a lot of different ways. He's a valuable community member.
So we have a few questions here to get our brains flowing. As I know, you've already received a lot of good information today. So promoting equitable access. The first question, why does the power of place promote equitable access? And we want to give you a few moments to think about that yourself, but we also want you to discuss that question with those around you. Don't be shy. I could say something cheesy like knee to knee, eye to eye, heart to heart, but turn and talk. Does anybody have anything they want to share? Because as much as we're here to share with you, we want to learn from you too. So any ideas? Anyone? No one wants to share? I mean, you can share and tell on someone for what they told you. It doesn't have to be what you said. I promise I'm not hitting anything. I'm just going to put that down.
So how can place-based education benefit your students? So you don't have to be familiar with the book study in order to answer this question. And then the second part of that is how can it benefit your community? So think, what are your goals for students when you think about bringing community partners in? How does it benefit students, every student in your school? And then also, how does it benefit your community? Same thing, turn and talk. All right, ready, go.
Okay. All right, so I was speaking to Lindsey. She's at Ashland City Elementary, and they implemented school clubs this year. And so one of the beginning partnerships that my school kind of started with as well is the local high school, making that partnership. What does your local high school do well? What can those kids provide and opportunities for your students? Because that's where they're heading. I know that Lindsey brought in the drama club down to her elementary school to help start that club for her elementary students. How inspiring, right? To see where they're headed when they get involved with that. Also, I know that we got involved with our Portland High School Ag and welding, and they've done some things for us and with our students. So that's a great beginning place to start, is with your local high school.
And really, like, going back a little bit further, just stop for a second and look around your building. You know, who do you have access to in your own building? I know some of the people that I was talking to are at totally different places in the process. You know, some of you are learning, still building, and then some of you are expert schools that we really want to tap into and learn from. So it doesn't really matter where you are, just, just think about who do you have access to and how can you partner together. The follow-up question is, which school can you create a partnership with to be better together? I think it was especially powerful right out of COVID that we teamed up with one another. So, it doesn't have to be in your district even, but is there someone or a few maybe schools that you can learn from?
So I know, like, for us, it was an intimidating process to get your feet wet, to get buy-in from all staff that this is important, this is our vision for our students in school. And so when we went to this showcase, we saw a school that already does it really well. And so what can I learn from them? What can they provide to us that we can take back and make our own? And it's those kind of connections that are so simple, yet we don't always make.
And I love that because we come from totally different worlds, but you wouldn't even think that our communities would share students, but in fact, our students have transferred and vice versa.
So, to get your toes wet with this same idea is, who are you as a school? You got to consider your location, your demographic, what are your values and your mission, what community resources do you have around your school, who are those potential stakeholders, what are you trying to improve upon, and then where are you heading in the future? And all of those things are kind of what you consider and your lens that you see things through to who are you going to contact, who are the best partnerships for you, who are the best schools to reach out and say, hey, you do this well, how can you help us?
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that I had the opportunity to create the newest school community in our district 7 years ago, and Lindsey is at a pre-existing school, so, we're totally different lens just there. We started fresh, and they had to work with what was already established in their community. So we put our brains together, and we came up with 4 keys to building community partners. I would say that it's research-backed, but there's a lot of research out there on this. Student learning outcomes, you have to first focus on what do you want students to learn, right? Just like everything else. So that's our focus. Shared vision, that means our vision for students and then the community's vision for students as well. Real-world application and problem-based learning. We're going to dive into each one of these real quick.
So student learning outcomes. One of the biggest bangs for your buck is making those cross-curricular connections and making sure that what you're doing is vertical and aligned, but also that even your related arts team can get involved in making those connections. You want to immerse them with experiences, whether that's in school or out. And then giving them a connectedness to their community, that power of place, once again, knowing that I belong here, I have a purpose in my building, and I have a purpose in my community. And then embedding learning into everything that you do.
Yeah, and I think Lindsey can talk from the classroom teacher perspective. My role is actually the physical education teacher at my school, so I do have a broader view as well.
None of our video clips are going to work, so...
We will share this document, so if you're interested, you can see. This is a student perspective. She actually moved to our school from out of state this year, and she just got to kind of experience it hands-on, like front row seat. She won the 4-H speaking contest, so she really got to experience STEM in that way. But also she just spoke about how she benefits as a student to community partnerships, and she thinks everything from field trips to all of these guest speakers that we invite into our school, that gives her, she said at one point, she can't remember everything in a textbook, but she can remember those, those experiences that we got to help her bring to life. And this is our STEM and technology teacher. She's PTO funded, but she got to speak from a teacher perspective and also from a parent perspective, why establishing these relationships with community partners is impactful. And 2 things that she mentioned. One, it benefits students directly and our school community directly by inviting and establishing these relationships. But also, she said that our school community is still pretty new. So if you don't know exactly where our school is, it's kind of tucked back. And, it does help bring the community members to see what students are learning these days, and to see what we're doing at school. So I love that she mentioned both of those. Unfortunately, you can't hear.
And it goes back to shared vision. That should be parents, community stakeholders, teachers, students. All of them should have a voice in what's happening. Yeah. So leading right into it, back to that sense of community and that self-identity. Students want to be able to talk about who they are. When people come into the building to visit, or they come in to speak, or they come in to give a career day presentation, they want to say, hey, this is who we are, and we are proud of who we are. And so students need to know, what is that vision? How do I fit? What's my role? And build that sense of community.
Yeah, and I think when we do have these relationships in the community, we really value their expertise. That's the whole purpose, right? We're not an expert on everything, but we can tap into some people who are. So really treating them as educators.
Yeah, I think shifting from the idea that it's a guest speaker to the idea that they're a teacher too. When they walk in my classroom, my hat's off, I give it to them. I'm learning too. I'm learning what they know, and my kids are learning from what they know, and they become the educator, and that's the kind of community that we build.
Yeah. And I love that it gives students a form of self-identity. You know, they can really connect with people other than teachers. You know, people that look maybe how they look or whatever. This is a little extra. So each of our schools have a school-wide STEM focus each year. So you'll see in the next few slides some of our others. But this year, my school is WBE is out of this world. So everything that we teach is around student-centered, the student-centered approach and student leadership. So I love that. And then Lindsey, this is your staff.
Yes, so our school's adoption this year was Field of Dreams. Our school was built literally in a cornfield, and all around us is still farmland. And as I said, one of the problems this morning was the fence was down. We had cows in our back parking lot. And so why not let kids know that this is a part of who we are? We can be proud of this. And so our staff came up with the Field of Dreams idea this summer. And so we've done a lot of things surrounding agriculture and industry this year for our students and given them a lot of hands-on experience with that.
So this is from a couple of years ago. I'm just going to walk you through what you see right here. In Hendersonville, we're the city by the lake. So students already have experiences on the water with their family, and we have a creek running right by our school. So when it floods, our road floods, so it's difficult for them even to get to school. So we kind of took what is in the world around them that's really, in our local community. Kids see this, they feel it, they experience it, and we tapped into that. So this was centered around water everything. The Army Corps of Engineers, they were great big partners in every way possible coming into our school to provide. You see the student with the map there. We had a friend, because community partnerships are established on those friend relationships that you build, that he owns a helicopter. So flying above the Cumberland River there, everything that you see just tied back into water. So it was really cool to see students K-5 and faculty and staff, everybody knew what we were supposed to be learning. Now the standards look different, but to have the school-wide focus, that was really neat. Even little things like this at the top, the Nashville flood, we brought reporters from the Tennesseans. So it seems like a bit of a stretch, but they got to report on that event that was special to Nashville and came into our school to share with students. This expert, he works at our neighboring middle school. So he's a science teacher, and he is an expert on all things. And so it was just so cool to see, wow, we have this guy next door that we haven't tapped into. So even while we're speaking, think of missed opportunities that you may have had. The Asian carp, this is from the Kentucky Dam. And this man, he actually traveled to several Sumner County schools. I'll just kind of pop all over the place. This is the UT Extension in Sumner County. Not only did they show up, but they actually partnered with all of these different people in the community to make this one special presentation for students come to life and directly related to what they were learning at the particular time. The Hendersonville Utility District, I didn't know, but they bottled their own water, and they provided that donated water to our school. The Cumberland River Compact is an amazing resource in so many ways. Even the art teacher and the meteorologist and our environmental science club made hydroponic fish tanks.
And when we talk about better together, we always know as educators that collaboration is where it's at. More than one brain is always better. So a lot of these resources that she just named are things that we have also done at our school, and that's equity. And this is not going to play, it's a video as well, but it just happened to flip it, our field and agriculture PBL, and honestly, it was headed up by our related arts team. They planned it, they did it, and our students loved it, and they got to see tractors and how you bale hay and all the stuff that they see every day. They got to have hands-on experience with that, and it related to our field of dreams.
And one more thing on that, we practice the house system at my school, and so there are 4 houses, and each house was broken up into, when we had the school year focused around water, and students created STEM Challenge, building a bridge together over the paper water. So that was a great culture tie-in as well.
So real-world application, we want our students to know that what I'm learning matters, right? The why. Why am I doing this? Because if they don't understand that, then it's not valuable, and it's not going to be anything that they remember. So if we can tie in to these real-world things, getting their hands dirty and experiencing it and seeing, hey, this is what my community has to offer. This is what I can do one day. This is how whatever I'm learning in math or whatever I'm reading in ELA all connects together. And so we do that through experiences like a career fair, through other in-house and outside of house learning opportunities, grant writing, and I'll share something really cool about how some of our students wrote the grant and received the grant, and it was all student-led and student-done, and really how they have a community impact.
Gosh, so many things. So many things. We start with Career Day. So the Hendersonville Police Department, they built a horse barn across the street from our school, literally walking distance. And so we really tap into them as an ongoing community partnership. So the Mounted Police Force, they are willing to not only have students come to the horse barn, but also they're always willing to come. They just recently, last week, came to Career Day for like the 7th year in a row. These big, whatever it is, an automobile, an ambulance, a helicopter, to again bring STEM to life, and that helps create the buy-in from our families as well as students. My 5th grade students are at JA BizTown this morning, and that is an amazing experience for students. I cannot sing their praises enough, but because of COVID, we weren't actually able to go on the field trip last year. So our 5th grade teachers created their own. So 5th grade and related arts teamed up, and the gym was transformed into a small community where the mayor came in from our city. Everything is hands-on. You see, Family STEM Night. Last year, our school-wide STEM focus was around Grow Where You Are Planted. So again, following COVID, I thought that was perfect. So we have grow towers, and students got to taste lettuce and have healthy foods and smoothies, things like that. And then we donated the lettuce that we grew at that time to a local restaurant. So this is our student leadership team visiting the local Starbucks to learn from their baristas. You know, they are going to be future leaders one day, and I think, what better time to start than now? Oh, one more thing. This was after the Nashville tornado. It was a collaborative effort with our art teacher. She created these branches from the disaster and created this beautiful tree that's still in our building. So we had a one book, one school challenge, again, a school-wide book literacy challenge that also tied in STEM as well. So I think that was really special,
We also do the Grow Towers in our building as well. And then we have some student clubs, like our ag club, that then transplant certain things that we plant into our planters out in our garden area. We've had a shared experience with Billy Hicks in the planetarium for students. Our CDC students get involved? I know that's a question we get a lot, is how are we inclusive, right? Equitable education. And right here you see a picture of our CDC students making bread, and they do this every year, and they sell it to staff and community members as a fundraiser for the Special Olympics. Here we have another student. One of the issues is with our nonverbal communicators. How do we communicate with them on the playground? We do have a great peer-to-peer mentorship program, Peer Buddies, but how do those peer buddies communicate? And so we got a grant and a community partner funded communication stations on our playground and one inside of our building so that those students can communicate with their peers. We also had a very successful career day as well, and I'll talk a little bit about how we got that off the ground. We had a virtual career day last year because we still weren't allowed to have visitors, and this year was our first one with in-person people, and I can talk a little bit about that. So for those of you that are at that beginning stage, I would love to share with you on a little more later. Right here, we had a community partner that has a tech club, and our students run all the sound, video, lighting for all of our plays, our musicals. It's all student ran. Up here at the top, we had a young lady that made some teachers a button, and she decided that she wanted to make it a business. So she partnered with our third grade kindness squad, and our third graders designed, made, and sold buttons at our Thanksgiving dinner. And so there's lots of great things that are all student ideas, and my job is easy then, because I just try to make it come to life. And I look, okay, who could help us with that? Could your dad help us with that? Could your aunt help us with that? Do I know somebody? Does my co-teacher know somebody? And it starts with asking those questions and reflecting to see who's around you to make these dreams and problems be solved and come to life. This is one of, he's amazing. He is on our media team, and they do a Panther Scoop on Fridays where they talk about what's going on in our building. And he talked about Career Day, and he loves engineering. And he said, it was crazy. I got to meet like 3 different kinds of engineers. And it was just going on about how he got to experience that. And that's what he remembers, was the engineers. Were there others there? Absolutely. But that's what spoke to him. And I'll give a quick shout out about out of school. I see Millard Oakley STEM in the back. Our third graders took a field trip there. Amazing. They're still talking about it. So if you don't know about that and field trips at Tennessee Tech with STEM, see the man in the back. It's great. Yeah.
This is Dr. Billy Hicks, and that is one experience that both of our school communities got to share. So the traveling planetarium, raise your hand if he's come to your school or a different mobile planetarium has. He grew up in rural poverty, and he really spoke a lot, just like our guest speaker this morning. So, the value of coming into school where they didn't see a future for him, but he continued to persevere anyway. He was a NASA scientist and now gives back to the community to make sure everybody has the same opportunities, not just affluent school communities, but everybody. And it's the same delivery. It's the exact same experience for everybody.
Problem-based learning. This is a great starting point. So if you're not doing it, this is a great way to begin building standard. This is where your standards and your cross-curricular connections and your student voice and your community partners all come together. And so standards-based learning obviously should be standards-based. It starts with what do my kids need to learn? What am I supposed to be teaching? And then how do other subjects and other teachers help with that? Are there community problems that connect to these standards that should be solved, that my students can help solve? Multiple solution questions. That's that higher order thinking that we're always driving our students to get to is, are there more than one way to solve a problem? As adults, we know that, but as students, they might not always know that. And then, what partners and what guests can we bring in? Are there field trips that we can connect to this? And then always talking about that EDP process.
So this is a specific example that happened at our school in quarter 3. This is second grade, and the overarching question says, how do rules help provide order, and what are the implications of following or not following? So I'll just walk you through the 3 pictures that you see. Our second grade teachers, it's really important to have teacher buy-in, and it's their responsibility to take ownership of what it is they want their students to be learning. So the second grade teachers set up this special guest speaker with an officer from the Hendersonville Police Department. And then our related arts team, what we do at our school is, while our lead educator is providing PLC planning time for teachers, the related arts teachers take on their students. And so, rather than just wasting the time, we really try to look for meaningful ways to engage students. So we took a walking field trip. The Hendersonville Parks and Recreation Department, they just recently built this brand new, beautiful hockey rink. It's not quite in the front of our school. It's a walking field trip. So it was a walking field trip to visit the parks director, and then a referee to, again, target that question. And then the last picture that you see, the students took a field trip to the state capitol. So an in-house field trip, an outside experience on a field trip. But it was amazing to see everything, not just these guest speakers, but everything that they did, STEM challenges, everything came back. They even had a Zoom with an author for the particular text that they were reading to, again, tie back into this.
These are 2 examples from Gateview, both from this year, actually. So here, these pictures are all from the 3rd grade Kindness Squad. Their PBL started in August, and it was community-centered. How are we a community? How do we show that we're a community to those in our school? And they came up with a handshake. They came up with their hashtag Kindness Squad was their idea. They were like, we want to be orange because it's bright and it looks joyful. They came up with the whole thing, and the ball just started rolling from there. All we did was kind of pose the question. And it led to a year-long PBL where our kiddos actually got involved with writing a grant through our Chamber of Commerce. And the students wrote and told them who we are, our identity. We're the Kindness Squad. This is what we want to do. We're selling buttons. We want to spread kindness. We want to know how we can help the community. And so the Chamber partnered up with Graphic Obsessions, and they made our students' T-shirt designs come to life, and they gave every 3rd grader a shirt, which we wore on our field trip. And then they also gave us a banner that hangs in our hallway under each child's self-portrait. I teach 3rd grade, so I guess I'm a little biased because I was a part of that. But then they started talking about, well, what's my identity within my community? How do I benefit this Kindness Squad community? What am I good at? So we had jobs, accountants, that kept track of how much we're making off our button sales. We had design manufacturers that actually designed and made the buttons. We had a recycling team or waste management. They were in charge of our school-wide recycling center. We had journalists that wrote newsletters about what was happening and what the Kindness Squad was doing that went to everybody. And the coolest one was a school-wide mail system. And we literally had a post office box in the main hallway. Each hallway had a road name, and the classroom number was their house number. And on Google Classroom, every kid had access to every student and their address. And so they got to write letters, and our postal service would then sort the mail on Thursdays and put it in the teacher mailboxes. And so that was a great culture-building PBL. Over here, this is something that 5th grade is doing when they're studying civil rights. This is about identity, too. In Sumner County, Gallatin, Tennessee, there's a pretty famous story about Eddie Sherlin and Bill Ligon. And they were both all-star basketball players. And there's a book about it now. And so our students are going to read that as a supplemental to the curriculum book. Because what's more important? A curriculum that doesn't know our kids, or still meeting the standards with something that they can connect to. We're bringing Eddie Sherlin in to talk with that students and do a Q&A after they've read the book so that it makes the matter that they're learning be real for them.
And tell them your connection.
So Facebook is cool, guys, in case you don't know. It's a great way to start, too. The 5th grade teacher texted me, and she was like, I see that you're friends with Eddie Sherlin on Facebook. Yes? Well, how do you know him? I'm like, well, he was my basketball coach in high school. She's like, can you reach out and see if he'll come talk? And so that's how the connection happened, and that's how we've got him coming. So look for those connections. Get on Facebook. See who you got a mutual friend with. Make that happen. It seems so small, and yet we don't always think about it. So maybe be intentional to reflect on missed opportunities, as you said earlier. Our fourth grade did a food truck. This was another really good one. After they designed and made a business plan and came up with a prototype model, Delaney's food truck, which is popular in our town, he came out, and our mayor came out as well, and all the students presented their food truck plans and discuss with Delaney and the mayor.
Yeah, I love that you guys made the Portland Sun the local newspaper as well. Again, the community piece of that. So sustaining community partnerships. You know, at this point in our STEM adventure, this is a really big area of growth, and I think it's a constant area of growth. So how do we keep these great people, these great resources year after year? You know, I was telling Lindsey that, you know, if a parent comes to career day, they've done it once, and then they feel like their time is done. But we don't want that. You know, we want year after year, and not for money either. You know, we value them, and we want to partner together. So they have to have a willingness to engage. So how can you motivate them? The capacity, you know, time for people is short, and year after year your capacity might differ, so you can't really, you know, rely on or bank on certain people without checking in with them every single year ongoingly. Communication, that is my biggest I would say my biggest recommendation. In schools, we don't have a lot of time to communicate and communicate well and expect the same, but clear communication, stating your expectations for getting these people on board up front, I cannot stress that enough. You know, emails and calls and following up to really make it successful. Clear understanding of roles, so that means, you know, not just having the fire truck come to school. They need to know what they are going to be expected to do when they get there. You know, if there's a specific talking point, or we share our student learning objectives, so they can really you know, just drive that home for students. And then appreciation and value, you know, let them know how much they're appreciated. We are big on thank yous. So, you know, we have a team of students who, they write thank you letters. Constant in all the ways we appreciate people. And then valuing other people's time. So know that this is extra for them. They don't have to do this. And how can we, you know, make them want to be a partner in education?
So we have a few resources we're going to talk about, and we're going to share our contact info at the end. So if you want us to share one of these with you or our presentation, we are happy to do it. This was a great starting place for Gateview. As I said, this was kind of the first major year where we could have people in our building. And so we did a STEM survey. Being a Title I school, year after year, we have family nights that kick off the year. And so our families expect that. So we took advantage of the opportunity of knowing we were going to have a good turnout, and we provided a STEM survey. And as the speaker said this morning, we want to educate our families to what we're doing. We want to get them involved in our shared mission. And so we had a team set up with a STEM table that parents stopped in as they were going to get their food, so we knew they had to stop there. And we told them a little bit about what we were doing, what we wanted to happen for our students, and we gave them a STEM survey. I would say 80% of our career fair stakeholders came from this survey. The Metro Police Aviation that flew with a helicopter and landed on our track came from the STEM survey. All the engineers that Josh that you saw was excited about came from our STEM survey. And so that was a great entry point for us to begin this year, pulling some people in. Those were distributed to teachers so that they could see too, like, how could I use this person? And then it had contact information on there so that teachers could easily make that contact, because a lot of the staff buy-in comes from, I don't know how to contact. I don't know who to contact. And then we also had a partnership agreement that kind of laid some just logistic things out that teachers didn't have to question. So if they did get someone to say, yeah, I'll come, this was already pre-made and they could send it right to them. So if you're interested in one of these things, you can reach out to me and I'm happy to talk more or send it to you.
Yeah, I was going to add on that we put this in our school newsletter, emails to families, so it's digital as well. You know, whatever works best for your families and your school community, sometimes both. You know, we can't over-promote, and you guys, the 80%, that's pretty impressive.
Also, we do a Foursquare template. When we start our PBL planning process, each grade level does this, where they have to brainstorm that overarching multiple solutions question, connect it to their standards and related arts, and then there's a spot too for field trip ideas, community partners, guest speakers, and it's kind of that initial like word vomit process as teachers when you're brainstorming and you're imagining and you're getting it all out there, and then when you are feeling good about it, there's the TSIN PBL template that then you can kind of take that abstract process and put it in something nice and neat.
Yeah, and how this looks at the beginning of the school year, or really summer before the school year, we got big sheet paper and just let teams of teachers, grade level teacher groups, you know, just kind of brainstorm. And it is one big hot mess. It's colorful and messy, and that's kind of the beautiful part of it. So, you know, take that and then to make it nice and neat. This school year we have one PBL per quarter with big bulletin boards that display each grade level's focus for the quarter.
Yep, we do the same. Yep. All right. So, as I said, this is us, as you know. So feel free to write down our email address or take a picture, our Twitter, whatever, reach out. We're happy to talk more if something perked your interest today and you want to hear more about it. Or we would also love to hear from you. So if there's something that we said that you're doing really well, please reach out and share that with us, because we're improving our schools every day too. And we want to hear from you. We'd love for you, if you have questions, reach out. And we can share our PowerPoint today or any of the resources like our PBL guides and STEM surveys, those things with you too.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming today. We hope that it was meaningful and it wasn't just, another thing that you feel like you have to do, but it's really embedded across both of our schools. Thank you.